I'm Diane.
I'm Gary Semjenow. And Diane and I have been married since March 30th, 1985.
So almost 38 years, right?
Yeah, a couple months short of 38 years. It happens so quickly, though. You don't count the years, but the evidence is there, you know? So now we've got 6 grandchildren, so that didn't happen by magic.
I grew up in Southern California, Northern California, and Washington. Moved a whole lot. And my teenage years were in Washington. I went to school in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And then my parents moved back to California while I was going off to school. And so I had to move. After college, I was still single. And I didn't think I would be, but I was still single. And so moved back in with my folks and got a job out of college and started commuting for that and commuting to a good church, Redwood Chapel. And this is the church that Gary grew up in. And I started going to a singles group, and because that's through the years how I would make friends as my Christian fellowship groups. That was important to me. I didn't go to those groups just to make friends, but having moved around a lot, that was, I knew, proven to be a good way to meet people. And I ended up meeting Gary there.
But I remember she was just like really friendly, and she had a really nice smile, and she was like very concerned about people. And then I remember, as I watched her more carefully, she just seemed to be really serious about her relationship with the Lord. And so she had some real disciplines in her life and the way that she approached her spiritual life as well as her personal life.
I think you noticed me before I noticed you. I don't know. Because you asked me out for a date.
I only know when I noticed you. I don't know when you noticed me.
He asked me out for a date on the telephone, and I wasn't sure who I was talking to. That's my nature. It takes me a while to connect names with faces. So he didn't ask me out on that date. He asked some other girl who would remember who he was.
Yeah. It was a good concert.
But I definitely took note at the next meeting of who he was. And anyways, he asked me out again to some business picnic, and then things started moving along quickly. We just clicked. Yeah.
But Diane and I, when we were dating, it was I was working then, and I had a job out of town. So on Sunday nights I would drive out. It was about 3 hours away, and then I'd stay the weekend, or up to the weekend, and come home on the weekends. So every Sunday night would be kind of a tearful departure, and then coming back on Friday would be like, we'd spend as much time together as we could on the weekend, and then that tearful departure. So it was kind of like...
I hated goodbye. Oh, you have to go.
I was the one crying. No.
No, you were.
No. But I remember it was like... kind of had to evaluate the relationship constantly, because is it worth all this hassle and pain? Because it wasn't an easy situation, but it kind of constant evaluating as we were dating stuff. It kind of forced me to kind of step in baby steps to a more and more serious relationship, and I'd really never had that type of relationship before. So we got to the point to where we decided that we were in love, and we wanted to get married. So that was in 84, and then we got married, it was like 6 months later after we got engaged. And probably 3 months before we got married, we actually bought a house. So, and it was not a fixer-upper, but it was an old, small house, and it was, perfect for the size of our household, because you could take all her possessions in the backseat of a car, and mine you'd need the back of a pickup truck, but that was it. So we'd moved around from place to place for all those years. We had nothing. So we bought a house. Actually, I can remember the day we bought the house. It was a rainy day. and we parked across the street, and we just were like looking at the house and just going, oh.
Just all our dreams were coming true. It was kind of fun.
Yeah. And it was like on the day after Christmas or something like that. So we lived in that house for the first year, and I mean it definitely was a starter house, but it was our house.
Gary had the wonderful suggestion of eliminating TV for that first year. So we had no TV for the first year. It was kind of weird, but we did a lot of reading, and we've always enjoyed playing games. And
we did a lot of little projects on there to kind of make it more ours, and so we lived there for 3 years. But the first year we kind of started in on some of the projects.
So we had Rachel 3 years after we were married, 3.5 years.
3.
In order for me to stay home and us to let me raise kids on a single income, he said, we got to move to a cheaper state. So we moved to Texas.
We lived there for 5 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then 5 years later, we moved.
But in between there, we had Eric was born when we were living in Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was born, and then we were there for 2 more years. So we were there for 5 years, and he was 3 years into there, he was born. So.
Yeah, so we had a California baby, a Texas baby, and then our Kansas. No more.
Yeah, I told Diane, we're not moving.
Yeah, we stayed in Topeka for 27 years.
The house we moved into is the one we left when we came here.
That was weird.
Yeah.
Hard to leave, but we like it here.
I was thinking about this, and I think that one of the things that has been beneficial for us is just to not take things too seriously. Have a sense of humor, nurture that and chill. But because there are times when you need to be very serious and make hard decisions, but every decision does not need to be hard and serious. And so I think sometimes it's just keeping things in perspective. And sometimes that's easier for one person versus another. And depending on the topic, it might flip-flop who that person is struggling more. And just helping each other kind of see the bigger picture, and that it's not that big of a deal, even though it might seem like it at the time.
I would say find common interests, enjoy one another, encouragement, dish out lots of encouragement, not cut downs and negativity. One other thing is never even consider divorce or leaving one another an option. It just early in our marriage, I think that was eliminated from our dictionary. It's just, you can't be playing those kind of games and threatening that kind of stuff when you get into arguments.
Yeah, and I guess along those lines, that if you know that you're in it for the long haul, you approach problems differently. It's like you're not looking to win a battle with your spouse. You're looking how can we win? Mm-hmm. And I think that perspective really helps sometimes, because sometimes you want to win, but that's not necessarily the right thing for tomorrow or the next day or the next year. So I think that we're not perfect, but I think that it's helped though in those situations to where, again, a perspective. So sometimes when there's an easy win, it's better not to do that. It's better to kind of take a different approach, and it's hard to compromise when you're certain you're right. But sometimes you need, there's more than just one right. And when it's something wrong and right, well, then you got to go with what's right. But when it's right and righter, or right or almost the same, sometimes you just have to trade off. There's a lot of things in marriage that are hard, but I think sometimes even getting through the hard things, they bring you closer together. And even just having a time to talk about some sweet memories about someone who's gone. And it's nice to be able to share that stuff. Now, someone who's 3 years married, they don't really care about that. But at the same time, it's a reality that as you grow together and grow with each other, you know, and grow old together.
And keep putting God first.
Well, for sure. 'Cause if you don't have a common base philosophy, base, you know, reason for living, things will tear you apart. And so I think, you know, more than anything, that's probably what's kept us together, is just our mutual, you know, love for the Lord. Imperfect people loving the Lord as best we can.
Exactly.
And you know, and loving each other, I think, and I think Diane does this really well, is in a kind of a non-judgmental way, just kind of trying to encourage to be the best you can be. Because I feel like there's a lot of times I could be reprimanded, and instead, you know, I think I get encouragement, you know, so that's to me.
Goes both ways.
Yeah,
And it's a marathon. 38 years isn't, you know, we still have our ups and downs, so.
I hope.
Yeah, we'll keep at it.